So here you have it, the Panasonic BS1H. It's the smaller version of the S1H. It's packed into this cube, and I've been fortunate enough to shoot with this for one day. So I have to return it tomorrow, but let's just talk about what this camera can do and why I think this is a great addition to the S1H lineup. So let's take a look at the footage we shot, and then let's talk about this little cube of a camera. So the S1H just got a new form factor, and today we can introduce the Panasonic BS1H Cinema Box Camera. The BS1H is a super compact and lightweight version of the S1H, packed into a small box that weighs 590 grams, making it ideal for mounting on a stabilizer. Today we're using a glide cam, but you can stick this camera on any gimbal. The Lumix BS1H has everything I love about the S1H, and I can rig out this camera in any way it needs. Today we are creating a short MTV edit, and the footage you're watching are shot in 24 frames per second, 422 10-bit Cine D. All the BTS footage is shot by Daniel on the Panasonic S5, and if I hadn't told you, you wouldn't be able to see the difference when we blend the footage together. So if you're coming from the S5 or the S1H, this is a great addition to your camera lineup. The BS1H also has SDI and HDMI out, as well as timecode and gen lock. Alright, so as I said, the BS1H is out, and as you can see, it's this little cube right here. It weighs about 590 grams, and I really didn't see it as a big deal when I saw it first because it didn't have any monitors. I'm not used to shooting on these cube form cameras, but I will say it really amazed me because I love shooting on my glide cam, and the S1H is just a tiny bit too big for that, I would say. It gets really heavy very quickly. But with this configuration, there's nothing sticking out to the side. Everything is centered around the middle of the camera. I had the monitor on there, I could see everything. It was just amazing. So this really got me thinking that this might be a camera that I would invest in, because once I got used to not having all the dials that I have from the S1H, it worked perfectly. It was easy to see. You got the big screen on the monitor there, and it was just amazing to shoot with. It doesn't weigh anything. You got all these mounting points. You got 3 here, 3 here. You got 2 on the bottom, and then 3 on the side as well. So in terms of the weight difference between the S1H and the BS1H, is not that much. I weighed this system with cage and everything with the other handle and the 16 to 35. It's 2.7 kilos. And if you compare this to the BS1H, same configuration, it's 2.3 kilos. So there isn't a massive difference, but the difference is how the weight is distributed. On the S1H, it's all centered around the middle of the camera and in front. When the BS1H, you have the weight distributed along the whole camera. That's why it doesn't feel this heavy when you hold this camera, because the weight is towards the back and the center of the camera. This kind of balances out the weight of the camera. This is why it doesn't feel as heavy as this one is. So here we go. The camera is rigged out. It's powered on. We have a nice top handle on it. The balance of it is really nice, actually, when you hold it up here. We have a side handle. All this is from Small Rig. I'll put the link in the description if you're interested in any of these things. Yeah, it looks very nice. It feels good to hold. It sits very nicely in the hand, especially with the side handle. We got 3-point contact here. I can see the screen easily when I'm shooting. Yeah, it's just so nice to work with. I love this little setup right here, and especially when we put it on the glide cam. Oh man, it shines. So let's take a look at the buttons and how they configured it. Here in the front you have the on and off switch, which is in a weird spot because unless you have a monitor on here, you can't see that the camera's on. You have to look onto the front. There's a nice record button right there, big red one, which is really nice. And for the SD cards, we have dual slot SD here on the side. Pop this one in, there we go. And one of the really nice things that I also love from the S1H is that when we're recording, we have this red frame around it so that we can see we are recording. It's really nice. So in terms of the menu, got the Q menu as you might know from the S1H. I love this menu setup. It's so easy to glance through, and yeah, I just set this up as I set it up on my S1H, so it's easy for me to find the things that I'm used to. But there was some getting used to not having the ISO dial, and the aperture is on here, so once you turn this dial, the aperture will change. So it would be nice to have the option to change this wheel, but I couldn't find that in the menu. You can do that on the S1H, but I couldn't find it in here. But let's see if they update that so you can switch it to whatever you want. In the front here you have the FN buttons, and that is where I set the ISO and the white balance I had down here, and on this one right up here I had it to switch between SDNI and HDMI if you're changing monitors. The one down here is for the aperture. We got an FN button right here in the front, and this one I had set to be able to change the image area of video, so I could choose from full to super 35 and pixel in pixel. This I use when I need to zoom in very quickly and I can't zoom in anymore on the camera, or I just need to punch in on something. I use this feature. It's very nice to have. So you can easily just punch in just by putting it in super 35. So I have this on this button right here. Alright, so there's one thing that you will lose with this camera or the S1H, and that's the 5-axis stabilization, the IBIS in-body stabilization. So unless you have a stabilized lens, there's no stabilization in this camera. So it was a bit getting used to not having that, but once it's on a gimbal or once it's on a glide cam, I always turn the stabilization off. So this is why I think it's perfect for that use, because I don't have to think about if it's on, if it's not on. It is never on. So there's no stabilization in it, but it's not a downside for the way that I will use this camera. Alright, so that's the Panasonic BS1H. I really love this camera. I'm definitely gonna have one for my glide cam setup. And of course, if you want to see more about that, tell me in the comments if you're into glide cams, and we'll take a look at that. But again, thanks for letting me try this out. It was really nice to work with this camera. Well guys, that is it. I don't have any more for you today, but if you want to see how I make my mountain bike edits and how I lay out my sound design, I actually made a video for audio last week. I'll link it in the description, also link it here. Go back and watch that. It's a really good video about how I use sound design in my videos. That's it guys. Stay creative and stay safe, and if you can, go out and shoot some dope videos. See you next time. Bye.